My wife said she stayed with her sister to think, but I caught her having an affair with a coworker, and my next move destroyed their plan. I am 33, male and run field operations for a landscaping company here in Texas. We are talking serious money, 6 figures, managing crews that handle everything from corporate office complexes to those fancy subdivision entrances where rich people live. I started from the bottom, pushing mowers at 19. Now I am the guy who decides which contracts we take and how much we charge. My ex-wife, Rebecca, 28, female, works a basic marketing job downtown, pushing social media posts for a mid-tier company. We met 7 years ago when I was 26, and she was this 21-year-old college chick finishing up her marketing degree. Back then, I was already making real money while she was eating ramen noodles and stressing about finals. Here is the thing about younger women. They either grow up with you or they do not. Rebecca seemed like she was going to be one of the good ones. She would wake up at 4:30 in the morning to make my lunch before I headed out to job sites, not some basic peanut butter and jelly garbage either. We are talking proper sandwiches with good meat, fruit, those fancy chips, the works. The girl knew I was grinding to build something, and I appreciated that. She would get excited about stupid stuff that mattered. We would drive through neighborhoods looking at houses, and she would point out ones she liked, talking about where we would put a workshop for my tools or how she would set up the kitchen. She had this whole vision of us building a life together, which was refreshing because most chicks her age were still trying to find themselves or whatever. Our routine was solid. I would handle the big stuff, mortgage, utilities, insurance, car payments, basically anything that required actual money or decisions. She would handle the domestic stuff, cooking, cleaning, making sure we had groceries. Fair trade, right? I am busting my ass in 100 degrees heat, managing crews of guys who would walk off the job if you looked at them wrong. She is making sure I come home to a clean house and decent food. The bedroom situation was good, too, twice a week. Sometimes more if we were both feeling it. She would actually initiate sometimes. We bought a house together when she was 23. Nothing crazy, but a decent place in a good neighborhood where property values were climbing. Marriage happened when she was 24. Her parents insisted on a prenup. I thought it was good. It protects both of us if anything goes sideways. It had an infidelity clause. Of course, this becomes important later in the story. The first 3 years of marriage were solid. Rebecca kept up her end of the deal. I kept up mine. She would have dinner ready when I got home. We would watch TV, maybe hit up some friends on weekends. It worked. I was pulling in more money each year. She was getting promoted at her little company. We were building something, but then February hit and everything started changing. At first, I thought it was just winter blues or work stress. Texas winters are not that bad, but some people get weird when the days are shorter. Rebecca started getting moody, picking fights over nothing, acting like everything I did was wrong. The first major sign was the bedroom situation. It went from twice a week to maybe once every 2 weeks. When I tried to initiate, suddenly she was too tired or had a headache. Classic stuff, right? Every married guy knows what that means. I did not make a big deal about it at first because sometimes life gets busy, but it kept happening. Then she stopped cooking. Just completely stopped. I would come home after managing 3 different job sites, dealing with client complaints, making sure payroll was right for 15 guys, and she would be on the couch scrolling TikTok. I did not feel like cooking tonight. Can we just order something? Became her daily greeting. Look, I get it, everyone has off days, but when off days become every day, that is not stress. That is just being lazy. We were spending $200 a week on takeout because this chick could not be bothered to throw some chicken in the oven. When I pointed this out, she got all defensive. She would retort, I work too, you know. I am not your personal chef. That is when I knew we had a problem. See, Rebecca's work was posting on Instagram for a company that sells office furniture. She would show up at 9 o'clock, leave at 5 o'clock, had weekends off, got every holiday, and called in sick whenever she felt like it. Meanwhile, I am out there before sunrise making sure $1 million contracts do not get screwed up because one of my guys decided to plant flowers in the wrong color pattern. The disrespect was subtle at first. My work boots by the front door, same spot they had been for years, suddenly became a point of contention. She would complain, you are so inconsiderate. Cannot you put those in the garage? Forget to rinse a dish after eating breakfast at 5 o'clock in the morning? Do I have to do everything around here? This from a woman who had not cooked a meal in months. I shut that down real quick. Rebecca, I pay 70% of the bills in this house. You do not get to lecture me about a dish when you have not contributed to dinner in 2 months. She did not like hearing that, but it was facts. I was covering the mortgage, both car payments, insurance, utilities, groceries, basically everything that costs real money. Her little marketing job barely covered her student loans and credit card bills. The fighting got worse. She would find fault with everything. Suggest a restaurant? She would say that place was too loud. Plan a weekend trip? She would ask why we could not just stay home for once. Buy something for the house? She would declare we did not need that, and that I was always wasting money. Meanwhile, she was buying new clothes every week, getting her nails done, spending money on stupid stuff while complaining about everything I did. Around this time, she started talking about seeing some therapist named Adriana for personal growth. I thought maybe that was a good idea. Maybe a professional could help her figure out why she turned into such a pain in the ass. Looking back, that should have been red flag number 1. Happy people do not need therapy to figure out their authentic selves. Spring rolled around and instead of things getting better, Rebecca got worse. The whole personal growth thing with her therapist became her excuse for everything. She would say, Adriana says I need to stop people pleasing and focus on my own needs, when she would not cook dinner. Or, I am working on establishing healthy boundaries, when she did not want to spend time together. This Adriana character was filling my wife's head with all kinds of nonsense. Suddenly, Rebecca was talking about her authentic self and how she had been suppressing her true feelings for years. Meanwhile, I am thinking her authentic self was apparently someone who contributes nothing to our household while complaining about everything I do. The bedroom situation went from bad to non-existent. We went from twice a month to maybe once if I was lucky. And when it did happen, she would just lie there like she was doing me some huge favor. No enthusiasm, no participation, just going through the motions. It was like having sex with a corpse that occasionally complained about my technique. I tried talking to her about it once. I said, Rebecca, we used to have a good thing going. What has changed? Her response was that maybe she was just not that person anymore, and Adriana said it was normal for people to evolve. Evolution, right? More like devolution, if you asked me. The cooking situation got so bad, I started meal prepping on Sundays. I would spend my one day off cooking enough food for the week because I could not count on her to handle basic adulting. This woman, who used to take pride in taking care of her husband, now acted like making a sandwich was beneath her. When I pointed out how much money we were wasting on takeout, she got nasty. She would snap that maybe if I did not expect her to be my personal servant, she would be more motivated to cook. Personal servant. I was asking her to do the one thing she had always done while I handled everything else. It is like asking someone to keep doing their job and being told, you are oppressing them. The house started falling apart, too. Dishes would sit in the sink for days. Laundry would pile up until I handled it myself. She would leave her crap everywhere, makeup on the bathroom counter, clothes on the bedroom floor, purse and keys on the kitchen table. I would come home from managing crews all day to find my house looking like a tornado hit it. Her attitude toward my work got disrespectful, too. I would come home exhausted from dealing with difficult clients, weather delays, equipment breakdowns, and crew drama. And she would roll her eyes when I wanted to decompress, saying all I did was complain about work. This from someone whose biggest stress was choosing which Instagram filter to use. She started working late more often. At first, I figured maybe she was finally taking her job seriously, trying to get promoted or something. But the late nights became regular and she would come home acting weird, immediately jumping in the shower, keeping her phone close, being secretive about her day. Any guy who has been around the block knows what that looks like. The disrespect reached a breaking point one night in May. I had had a brutal day. One of my crews screwed up a major installation. The client was threatening to cancel a $50,000 contract, and I spent 6 hours fixing their mistakes. I came home to find Rebecca on the couch watching Netflix with a pile of takeout containers on the coffee table. I asked, rough day? Trying to be conversational. She replied, you could say that. Posted 15 times today and only got moderate engagement. The algorithm is so unfair. I just stared at her. Her biggest problem was not getting enough likes on social media while I was out there saving contracts and managing real problems. That is when it hit me. This woman had no idea what actual work looked like. Rebecca, I need you to step up around here. This is not working. She responded, step up? I am working on myself, Scott. Adriana says relationships work best when both people are growing individually. I countered, Adriana does not pay our bills. I do. And I need a partner who contributes something besides Instagram expertise. She rolled her eyes. She said that maybe I needed to accept that she was not the same person I married. People change, Scott. She was not going to be my 1950s housewife anymore. A 1950s housewife for wanting her to cook dinner and not live like a slob. That is when I realized she was either completely delusional or testing me to see how much disrespect I would tolerate. Either way, I was not playing that game. I said, "Fine, but if you are not going to be a wife, do not expect me to be a husband. We can just be roommates who split bills." She did not like that. She started yapping about how I did not understand her journey and how she needed support, not pressure. But she still did not cook dinner, clean the house, or do anything productive, just more tears and more excuses. The therapy sessions with Adriana became twice a week. Rebecca would drive across town every Tuesday and Thursday, spending $150 each time to talk about her feelings. Meanwhile, she was complaining about me spending money on tools I needed for work. The hypocrisy was insane. Her family started asking questions. Rebecca's mom called me at work one day asking if everything was okay because Rebecca seemed stressed. I told her we were working through some things, but honestly, I was starting to wonder if this marriage was worth saving. When your wife acts like being married to you is some kind of burden, maybe it is time to cut your losses. The breaking point came Memorial Day weekend. I had planned a camping trip, something we used to do together all the time. Rebecca loved the outdoors, or at least she used to. When I brought it up, she rolled her eyes. She said that she was not really into camping anymore. It was just sitting in the woods pretending to have fun. I reminded her, "We used to love camping. Remember the trip to Big Bend where we hiked for 3 days?" She retorted that that was the old her, and she was discovering she preferred more sophisticated activities. Sophisticated activities like scrolling TikTok and complaining about everything. I went camping alone and had the best weekend I had had in months. No complaining, no attitude, no drama, just peace and quiet and time to think about what I really wanted in life. When I got back, Rebecca was annoyed that I had gone without her. She said that I could have just stayed home if she did not want to go. I replied that I wanted to go camping. She did not, so I went camping. She retorted, "That is not how marriage works, Scott." I said, "Exactly. Marriage is supposed to be about partnership. What we have now is not marriage. It is me supporting an ungrateful roommate who contributes nothing." She stormed off to call Adriana, probably to talk about how emotionally abusive I was for wanting to go camping. At that point, I was done trying to make it work. Rebecca had made her choice. She wanted to be a completely different person who did not respect me, did not contribute to our household, and treated our marriage like it was holding her back. Fine, if that is what she wanted, I would give her exactly what she was asking for. The "we need a break" conversation happened on a Tuesday night. I was in the garage organizing tools when Rebecca came home around 9 o'clock in the evening. She had that look on her face, the one women get when they are about to drop a bomb and think they are being noble about it. She announced, "Scott, we need to talk." I put down my wrench and gave her my full attention, ready to see what kind of creative excuse she would come up with. She said she thought we needed to take a break to figure things out. There it was, the classic "it is not you, it is me" speech disguised as relationship advice. I did not react. I just listened to see how deep the hole she was digging would get. She continued that we had been growing apart and she needed space to think about what she really wanted, adding that this was not fair to either of us. I asked, "How long were you thinking?" She replied, "Maybe 1 month or 2. Just enough time to get some clarity." Here is where most guys would start begging or trying to negotiate. Not me. I could see exactly what this was. She wanted permission to do whatever she was already doing while keeping me on the hook as backup. I said, "All right, I will pack some stuff and stay at my brother Tyler's place." She looked confused, like that was not the response she expected. She quickly added, "Actually, I was thinking you could keep the house and I will find somewhere else to stay." Now, that was interesting. Rebecca was obsessed with our house. She had picked every piece of furniture, spent weekends painting and redecorating, constantly talked about her plans for the backyard. This woman, who treated our house like her personal design project, suddenly wanted to leave. That told me everything I needed to know. She quickly added that she could stay at her sister Leah's place. "Do whatever you think is best," I said calmly. She went upstairs and started packing at 9 o'clock in the evening on a Tuesday night. Not throwing a few things in a bag for a temporary stay, but serious packing. Winter coats, jewelry, books, her good shoes, even small appliances. When she loaded the expensive coffee machine into her car, I had to ask, "Wait, are you sure you need that for a temporary break? I might be staying somewhere that does not have one. Right?" Because her sister Leah, who makes good money as a nurse, does not own a coffee maker, the lies were getting more obvious by the minute. She packed until midnight, making multiple trips to her Honda Civic. When someone packs their entire belongings at midnight, they are not planning to come back. At 12:30 in the morning, she came downstairs with her last bag. She said she would call me in a few days once she had had time to think. I replied calmly, "Take all the time you need." She tried to give me this awkward hug like we were friends saying goodbye instead of a married couple separating. Then she loaded her car and drove off into the night. I poured myself a drink and called my brother Tyler. I told him, "Dude, that is not how breaks work. Nobody packs their life at midnight unless they already know where they are going." I knew I was filing for divorce, but I needed to handle some things first. Tyler was right. The only question was where she was really going and who was waiting for her there. Anyway, I was getting to work. She wanted to play games. Fine, but she was about to learn that I do not lose games. I changed the rules. The next morning, I woke up in a silent house for the first time in 4 years. No Rebecca complaining about my alarm. No attitude. No passive-aggressive comments about whatever I had done wrong. Just peace and quiet. The first thing I did was drive by her office. Rebecca's car was not in the parking lot, but then again, she had probably called in sick to handle her separation. I parked across the street and waited. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, I saw her coworker Bill walking into the building. Bill was this guy who had been to our barbecues a few times. He seemed decent enough, but Rebecca had been mentioning him more frequently lately. She would say things like, "Bill got promoted to senior account manager," or, "Bill has such creative ideas for campaigns," and, "Bill thinks the company should expand into blah blah blah." Everything started clicking. Thursday after work, I decided to take a drive through the neighborhood where I remembered Bill lived. I found his street and drove slowly looking for Rebecca's silver Honda. It took 3 passes before I spotted it. Sitting in Bill's driveway like it belonged there. Not street parking like a visitor would use, but the prime spot right next to the front door. I parked down the block and observed. Her car had moving boxes visible through the rear window, the same boxes she had been packing Tuesday night. So much for staying with Sister Leah. The next day, I did some research on Bill. I found his social media profiles, looked up his address, and even found his property records online. Single guy, decent house, worked at the same company as Rebecca. His social media showed a lot of work events and group photos, including several with Rebecca going back months. There was one photo from a company happy hour in March that caught my attention. Rebecca was standing next to Bill, both of them looking pretty comfortable. Her hand was on his arm and they were standing closer than coworkers typically do. The caption was something about great team building, but it looked more like a date to me. I scrolled through more photos and found others. Rebecca at company events always near Bill. Rebecca at what looked like a restaurant with work friends, but it was just her and Bill. Rebecca at some outdoor event with a group, but again, she was positioned next to Bill like they were together. Going back through her social media, I found more evidence. Check-ins at restaurants on nights she claimed to be working late. Photos tagged at places she had never mentioned going. Comments from Bill on her posts that seemed way too personal for just coworkers. But I needed more than social media detective work. I needed real evidence. That weekend, Rebecca had left her laptop at home. We shared an email account for household bills and joint expenses, and I had always had access to it. Time to see what other accounts she might be using. I found email chains between Rebecca and her therapist Adriana, but these were not typical therapy communications. These were straight-up affair coaching sessions disguised as professional advice. The emails essentially told Rebecca, "You deserve to prioritize your happiness. If Bill makes you feel alive and appreciated, that is your authentic self calling. Marriage should not feel like a prison. You have every right to explore connections that bring you joy and fulfillment. Maintaining your current situation while exploring your feelings with Bill shows emotional maturity. You are giving yourself options." This woman was charging my wife $150 per session to encourage her to have an affair. She was not a therapist. She was a professional home wrecker. I researched Adriana Walsh. Her email signature stated she was a life transformation coach and relationship specialist. Her website was full of therapy-sounding language about authentic living and breaking free from limiting beliefs. But when I checked the state licensing database, there was no Adriana Walsh listed anywhere. She was practicing psychology without a license. I called my sister Rachel, who is an attorney. Rachel told me, "Scott, if this woman is taking money to provide psychological services without proper licensing, that is a felony. And if she is specifically encouraging infidelity, that could be relevant to your divorce case." Rachel told me to document everything before making any moves. Smart advice. I started building a comprehensive file. Photos of Rebecca's car at Bill's house with timestamps, screenshots of their social media interactions going back months, copies of the emails between Rebecca and fake therapist Adriana, bank statements showing cash withdrawals Rebecca had been making, probably to fund her separate lifestyle. The pattern was clear. This was not some sudden decision to take a break. Rebecca had been planning this for months, using her fake therapist as an excuse to justify what she was already doing. I also changed our Netflix password. Petty move, but necessary. The digging revealed something else interesting. Rebecca had been using our joint credit card for expenses that did not make sense. Dinners for two when she claimed to be working late. Hotel charges on days she was supposedly at work. Gas purchases near Bill's neighborhood when she had no reason to be there. She had been living a double life for months, and I had the evidence to prove it. But I wanted to see how long she would keep lying before I made my move. Sunday evening, right on schedule, Rebecca called. She sounded lighter and happier than she had in months, probably because she thought she had successfully pulled off her plan. She asked, "Hey, Scott, how are you doing?" I replied, "Just fine. How is your temporary living situation working out?" She said it was good, that she was staying with Leah and it was really helping her think clearly. I then asked, "And how is Leah doing?" She replied, "She is good." "You know how she is, busy with work?" I asked, "Still seeing that therapist?" She confirmed, "Yeah, Adriana has been really helpful in understanding my authentic feelings and what I need to be happy." Same buzzwords from the emails. She was reading from a script her fake therapist had given her. I asked, "When do you think you will have things figured out?" She responded that these things take time, Scott, and she did not want to rush into any major decisions. Translation: she wanted to test drive her upgrade while keeping me on standby in case it did not work out. "Take all the time you need," I said calmly. After we hung up, I called Rachel back. I told her, "I want to file for divorce." Rachel asked, "Are you sure? Some couples work through separations." I told her, "Rachel, she has been screwing her coworker for months while playing house with me. This is not a rough patch." Rachel replied, "Understood." Monday morning, I filed the papers. We live in Texas, a fault state where adultery matters in divorce proceedings. The prenup her family had insisted on was about to become her worst nightmare. Time to see how Rebecca would handle the consequences of her actions. Tuesday afternoon, Rebecca's carefully constructed world fell apart. She tried to log into our Netflix account and could not get in. She immediately called me. She asked, "Scott, why cannot I get into Netflix?" I said I changed the password, as it seemed logical to take a break from shared accounts if we are taking a break from our relationship. She retorted, "God, that is really petty. Give me the password right now. Why cannot a woman have some peace of mind?" I then asked her, "Does not Bill have Netflix?" She stammered, "Huh? Bill, what do you mean?" It was hilarious how she thought she would not get caught. I said, "Right, can we skip the part where you pretend you do not know how you have been screwing another dude, Rebecca?" Silence. The sound of someone's world falling apart. She then asked, "Can we talk in person?" I replied, "Absolutely. Should I meet you at our house or would you prefer I come to Bill's place?" She hung up. I could hear her panic attack from behind the phone. Within an hour, she was at my door. The confident woman who had walked out Tuesday night was gone. This was someone who had been caught red-handed and knew it. She asked, "How long have you known?" I replied, "Long enough." I had my phone recording. Texas is a one-party consent state, so everything she said would be admissible in court. She tried to say, "Scott, it is not what you think." I retorted, "I think you have been having an affair with Bill for months, moved in with him, and asked for a break to avoid calling it what it is while keeping me as your backup plan." She tried to interject, "That is not exactly." I pressed, "You packed winter clothes for a temporary break. Rebecca, you took the expensive coffee machine. You lied about staying with Leah. Your car has been parked in Bill's driveway for 3 days. She tried to deny it, but I had photos with timestamps. Then she tried to minimize it, but I had the email chains with her fake therapist encouraging the affair. Finally, she broke down and admitted everything. She confessed it started as just talking. She said Bill understood her in ways I did not. I asked, "When did it become physical?" She replied, "A few months ago." "But Scott, I was going to tell you eventually." I pressed, "You were going to tell me eventually when? After you had finished test driving your replacement?" She said it was complicated, that she had feelings for Bill, but she did not want to just throw away our marriage without being sure. So, she decided to have both. Keep me around as insurance while she screwed around with him. Then she really showed her true colors. Instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, she started making demands. She said she needed more time to figure this out, that she thought she loved Bill, but she did not want to get divorced yet. She asked if we could not stay married, but separated. I just blinked twice, stunned by the stupidity. I asked, "You want me to stay married to you while you live with another man?" "We are not playing here, Rebecca," she insisted, "it is not that simple." Adriana says it is healthy to explore all your options before making permanent decisions. I then informed her, anyway, I filed for divorce Monday. Her face went white. She exclaimed, "You did what?" I calmly repeated, "Filed for divorce. I am making it easier for you." "Now you do not have to be confused anymore," she demanded. "When were you going to tell me? Now? You cannot just decide to get divorced without talking to me, right?" I countered, "But you decided to cheat and play games instead of being honest. You could have told me from the beginning that you cannot be a wife anymore instead of wasting my time." She started screaming louder. She cried that this was not fair, and that she was honest with me about needing space. I corrected her, "You were honest after I caught you and only because you wanted permission to keep your affair going." She argued, "It is not an affair if we are separated." I retorted, "This is marriage, Rebecca, not a TV show. Are you 15? She then said, "I have rights. Half of everything is mine." I explained, "Actually, you abandoned our home to live with an affair partner. That works against you in property division, especially when you lied about it." "Oh, and remember the prenup your family insisted on?" "I know. Sucks to suck." She started crying, but they were angry tears, not remorseful ones. She screamed that I planned this, that I tricked her into admitting everything. I affirmed, "Yeah, I planned this." She continued, "You cannot just leave me. We built everything together. I am your wife," I stated. "You were. Not anymore." She cried more, yelled, screamed, and snotty yapped about how unfair this was, how she deserved a chance to explore her feelings, how the prenup was not supposed to work against her. She asked, "You are really not going to fight for our marriage? 4 years mean nothing to you?" I asked, "Fight for what? And did it mean anything to you, though?" She threatened to get a lawyer, said she would fight the divorce, and claimed I was being vindictive. Finally, she played the victim card. She said, "You never loved me. If you loved me, you would forgive me and try to work this out. You are not supposed to throw our marriage away over my mental health issues. I have pressures and needs. I was just working through my feelings." She screamed loud enough the dead probably got up from their graves. The neighbor's dog started howling. "Are you done?" I simply asked. Apparently, that set her off even more. She left screaming about how I would regret this, how she would take me for everything I was worth, and how her lawyer would destroy me in court. "Good luck with that, Rebecca," I said. 2 weeks later, she learned what happens when reality meets delusion. And it was not pretty. The universe has a sense of humor. While Rebecca was busy trying to figure out how to screw me over in the divorce, her perfect new life was falling apart faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The first domino to fall was Bill. It turns out the homeboy was not as committed to this relationship as Rebecca thought. Through acquaintances, I learned that Bill had been telling people Rebecca was just going through a rough patch and staying with him temporarily. When Rebecca tried to make their relationship official, changing her social media status, posting couple photos, talking about future plans, Bill backed off hard. Suddenly, he needed to take things slow and was not ready to be the rebound guy. Think about that. This dude was fine with screwing another man's wife, but when it came time to actually commit to her, he got cold feet. Rebecca had blown up her marriage for a guy who did not even want her long term. Wednesday night, 2 weeks after our confrontation, she called me crying. She said Bill needed space, that he thought she moved too fast and he was not ready for a serious relationship. He had said he thought she just needed temporary help getting back on her feet and did not realize she wanted something permanent. Shocking silence. Then she cried, "Scott, I do not have anywhere to go and this divorce is going to destroy me financially and this is all you managed to say?" Shocking. I asked, "What happened to staying with Leah, though?" She yelled, "Are you freaking kidding me? I am telling you, I have nowhere to go. God, you are being vindictive. You always were." Adriana was right. I replied, "Yeah, about Adriana. She is about to have bigger problems than you." She asked, "What the hell do you mean?" I said, "You will find out." The next day, her sister Leah called trying to negotiate some kind of deal. Leah said, "Rebecca told me everything. Scott, she made a mistake. Cannot you work something out? It is not worth ending a marriage over." I asked, "Her mistake? Would your husband work something out if you made that mistake, Leah?" Silence. Leah then said, "Do not bring my husband into this. It is different." I countered, "Okay, then do not tell me how I should handle my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife because it is different, too." She hung up. Good. Meanwhile, I was working on my unfinished business with Adriana. This woman had been taking money to encourage affairs, giving unlicensed psychological advice, and calling herself a therapist when she had no credentials. Time to introduce her to the legal system. I compiled everything: the email showing illegal therapy practice, her website advertising psychological services, payment records from our joint account, and proof she had no license or credentials. I filed complaints with the Texas State Board of Psychology, the Attorney General's office, and the district attorney. Practicing psychology without a license is a felony, especially when you are taking money for it. The investigation moved fast. Within 2 weeks, Adriana got a cease and desist order. A week later, criminal charges were filed for fraud and unlicensed practice of psychology. Her business collapsed overnight, website shut down, bank accounts frozen, and she was ordered to refund clients. She was looking at serious prison time and massive legal bills. But it got better. Other victims started coming forward. It turns out Adriana had been running this scam for over 2 years, giving dangerous advice to vulnerable people. One woman said Adriana told her to stop taking antidepressants because they blocked authentic emotions. Another guy was encouraged to abandon his wife and kids for spiritual growth. Local news picked up the story. The headline, "Woman Charged with Illegal Psychology Practice," ran on Channel 8 with Adriana's mugshot. Rebecca saw it and called me panicked. She asked, "What the hell? Did you report Adriana to the police?" I replied, "I might have." She then yelled, "I cannot believe you destroyed her life, too." I simply said, "Too bad." The situation was still getting worse for Rebecca. I did not even have to lift a finger. Bill's ex-wife found out about the affair and went nuclear. They share custody of an 8-year-old daughter, and when mom learned dad was shacking up with a married woman in the house where her daughter visits, she filed for emergency custody modification. Bill suddenly had lawyers, family court drama, and the potential of losing time with his kid. His traditional parents got involved, too, driving over for a loud driveway confrontation that the whole neighborhood witnessed. They demanded he end the relationship immediately or face being cut off from the family. At work, the affair became public knowledge. In a company of 50 people, everyone knew within days. Rebecca went from respected marketing coordinator to office pariah, the woman who destroyed her marriage for a guy who did not even want her. Human resources called them both separately. Their personal drama was affecting workplace morale and productivity. Bill got transferred to a different team to minimize contact. Rebecca got moved to the satellite office across town, basically professional exile. Rebecca could not handle it, so she quit without having another job lined up. No income, no boyfriend who wanted her around full time, no marriage to fall back on. She had to move back in with her parents at 28 years old. Her parents, who had always liked me and been proud of their daughter's marriage, were not sympathetic. Her dad told her she had made her bed and now had to lie in it. Her mom gave her the silent treatment for a week. Our mutual friends picked sides, and most chose mine. They had been suspicious of Rebecca's behavior for months and felt betrayed when the truth came out. The few who tried to stay neutral got tired of hearing her complain about the consequences of her own actions. The legal situation was going exactly as Rachel predicted. Rebecca's recorded confession, documentation of her abandoning our home, financial records showing she had been maintaining a separate household with Bill. We had an airtight case. The prenup her family insisted on was working exactly as designed. No spousal support due to proven adultery. Minimal claim on marital assets due to abandonment. She was going to walk away with almost nothing. Through all this chaos, Adriana kept taking Rebecca's money right up until her arrest. Even as Rebecca's world collapsed, this woman was collecting $150 per session to tell her she was staying true to her authentic self. Professional vulture. By the end of the month, Rebecca had lost her job, her boyfriend, her independence, her reputation, and most of her friends. She was living with her parents, unemployed, and facing a divorce that would leave her financially devastated. But the story was not over yet. 6 months after Rebecca walked out, thinking she had upgraded her life, it was time to tally the final score. Spoiler alert, she got screwed. The divorce finalized in November. Thanks to the prenup, documented adultery, and her abandonment of our home, Rebecca's settlement was brutal. She got back her original down payment contribution minus depreciation, about $8,000 total. No spousal support, no claim on my business, no ongoing financial connection to me whatsoever. At the final hearing, Rebecca looked like she had aged 5 years and 6 months. Her lawyer tried to argue the prenup was unfair, but when you have recorded confessions and photographic evidence of adultery, judges do not care about your feelings. During the paperwork signing, she kept looking at me like she wanted to say something. Her attorney kept her quiet, but walking out of the courthouse, she finally spoke. She said, "Scott, I am sorry for everything." I replied, "I am sure you are now." She then asked, "Cannot we at least be friends?" I said, "Sure, we can be siblings, too." She looked at me like I just murdered her dog. That was our last conversation. The aftermath was even more brutal than the divorce. Bill had dumped Rebecca 3 months earlier, telling her she had brought too much chaos into his life. Custody battles, family drama, workplace issues. He decided she was not worth the trouble. Rebecca had a complete breakdown. She ended up staying with her parents for 4 months while getting actual therapy from a licensed professional. Eventually, she found work at a smaller marketing firm for significantly less money, the kind of job college graduates take, not someone with her experience. But when you are known as the woman who destroyed her marriage for a coworker who did not want her, career options become limited. She is living in a studio apartment now because that is all her reduced income can support. Bill bounced back quickly. He worked out the custody situation with his ex-wife, kept his job, and within 6 months was dating someone new, someone single this time. Funny how that works. Adriana pleaded guilty to fraud and unlicensed practice of psychology. She got 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and had to pay back over $50,000 to victims. She is permanently banned from any counseling or coaching work in Texas and had to relocate to another state where nobody knows her history. As for me, life got better. Business is thriving. I met Valeria through my hiking group, a 30-year-old teacher who is respectful, kind, and acts like an adult. We are taking things slow, went on a few dates, and for now, things seem to be great. Not pushing, though. I am still enjoying my peaceful life post-Rebecca. If I have any advice for the poor bastards out there, do not marry a freaking teenager.